Finally, all the parts came in. Yep. Finally do a little bit of wrenching on the HD here. I actually was waiting for just one piece of the suspension for over a week now. Kind of got lost with FedEx, but it's back, or it came in. So time to lower the 2500 a little bit. I've already done a little bit. Got new wheels and tires. Well, let me rephrase that. New tires on the original wheels. They turned out pretty good. The sun's kind of hitting that, so it's a little bit shaded. But just took the original steel wheels, cleaned them up, spray painted them red, put some new 245 75/16 tires on there. Keeping them kind of smaller because it'll be lowered. I don't want it too wide. But yeah, it turned out pretty good. I'm going to paint the wheel weight, and I do need a little bit of touch up because when they kind of mount them, the outer edge can get ground up a little bit. But yeah, it's pretty good. In fact, here is how I was doing it. This is one of the original tires. So I just spray painted right on top. This is the old powder coating as a joke. But it, you know, it turned out good. A lot of light coats. So we'll see what it does. But yeah. Time to do a little bit of wrenching. Let's check out what we got so far. All right, so here are all the parts. Front rear suspension, and also a this one here is a transmission bracket brace, whatever you want to call it. It really doesn't do anything for lowering. It just gives it more clearance because the bracket kind of hangs down a little bit on the truck. But front lower control arms, that's the actual big change. These sit up higher, which in turn is going to lower the truck. And then upper control arms are just, I don't even know if you actually need these, but they're supposed to give a little better wear and angle on the ball joints, so hopefully a little bit of alignment with these. So I got all of that. And then the big, not the big piece, but the more involved piece down here is actually they call it an axle flip kit, which doesn't so much flip, it just relocates the axle on top of the rear leaf springs. This is for notching the frame. Probably going to eventually weld these. I don't know, I haven't debated about this yet, but I'll have to see when we actually start to install. They just bolt through the frame currently, but new shocks, and yeah, that's really it. So here on the front, like I was saying, upper control arms will be replaced. They don't really do anything geometry wise other than, well, that's not totally true. They're supposed to help with the ball joint a little bit, but fundamentally they're pretty similar to what's currently on here. Obviously I'll replace shocks. The whole spindle, brake assembly, all this stuff is stock, it just gets swapped out. And then the lower one's the big change here. This gets replaced with the DJM aftermarket one, and basically it's just going to take everything here and just move it up. I think they say 6 inches, but it might actually be a little more than that. And you can play around with the torsion bar there to get that last little bit. So that's the front. And then back here, they call it the flip kit, but like I was saying, you're basically taking the axle, which is currently mounted below the leaf spring, and you're going to mount it up here. So I think you can technically move the truck around. Well, I don't know, we'll find out, without putting the notch in, which will be up here. In fact, that's how they say swap the axle, move it above, get everything ready, and then the last step is actually to notch it, because obviously any kind of suspension, boom, you're gonna hit the frame. But yeah, so the only real thing that isn't bolt-on is going to be the notching. So you put the plate up here, cut this out, and then put the plate in. Everything else is technically bolt-on, so I guess you can argue this is a bolt-on kit. But same thing, obviously, in the back here, this axle is going to be moved up to here, so you can see it's going to be a pretty dramatic change. We'll see what we end up, but my guess is the tire is going to be somewhat close to the fender. I think they wanted, this is the overload spring in the back. I think you remove that more for clearance than anything else, because this truck's obviously not going to haul anything super heavy. Maybe a little bit in the bed. Obviously, it's still going to be used for towing trailers a little bit. But no more crazy heavy duty loads. So probably the first thing here, I'll zoom down here again. I think I might have showed it on a previous video, but kind of see this transmission support bracket here. It just hangs down a little bit, and the new bracket gives you about an inch or so of clearance. And while it's not technically critical for the function of the truck when it's lowered, it will help with scraping or anything like that. So, but yeah, this is a lot to do. I wasn't actually expecting to be working on it this weekend because I wasn't going to start until I had both of these lower control arms. But the other one finally came in, so I think it's time. Let's get wrenching and see what this thing looks like lowered. Okay, so transmission crossmember has been removed. Jacked up the transmission just for support temporarily here. Use another jack to hold the crossmember. A couple bolts on the far side, a couple bolts on the near side, and it comes right off. There's one bolt up top that holds the transmission crossmember actually to the transmission. That's the mount up there. So pretty easy, pretty straightforward. So time to put the new one on. Unfortunately, nothing just bolts right in. I had to do a little bit of cutting right here on the transmission crossmember brace thing here, because this actually interferes. You can see that. Sorry, I'm crawling over here. It actually interferes. Oops. Bump, sorry. This actually interferes with the exhaust, where the exhaust hanger here comes off the transmission, hangs down here to support the two different catalytic converter and the two different tubes. They tie in back at the muffler. So unfortunately, had to cut that up a little bit, but now finally it should bolt in. So let's find out. Well, nothing is ever bolt on, unfortunately. Had to do more grinding than I thought I would to get this thing on, but as you can see on the back side here, I've already painted it, but I had to grind this little support piece all the way back and up to clear the mounts for the exhaust. And on the front side, I had to grind this edge off a little and take a whole bunch out of, if you can see how much, quite a bit, almost about to pop through, but I had to take a whole bunch off because the catalytic converter is sitting right here. Both tubes go like this, the catalytic converter is right here. So this should be enough. Finally can bolt this thing on. Oh, one other thing. I don't know if you can see it. You probably can't down here, but the mounting holes where this thing came off was here, and now I'm shifting it back, so I won't be putting this little L bracket thing on here. So I'm actually mounting it in the furthest back point, and then I had to modify the bracket you actually use for the transmission itself. Had to grind that off because I don't think I have the bolt out here, but everything shifted back to make everything clear the exhaust on the far side, and in turn they made the plate not quite mount up right, because I think it goes basically like this on here, but to make it work I had to get it way over like this. It might be backwards, I might be looking at it backwards, I can't remember, but basically I had to grind a little bit about, a little out of that. But it's supposed to be simple. This was supposed to be the easiest of all the parts. This is the bolt-on one. So anyway, this should be good. Be able to bolt this on, and then next will actually be the suspension pieces themselves to get this thing lowered. So anyway, keep moving on. Well, it's installed. A little bit of grinding, a little bit of cutting, measuring 3 times, cutting 4 times, all those different things, but finally it's in. Bolted in, transmission bolted up. Didn't use those little L bracket pieces over here. They didn't really fit by moving it backwards, but you can definitely see Here's the new location. This is where it used to be. So the original location was here, so everything shifted back. But with the trans mount that it came with, I was able to make it work. So this was supposed to be the easy part. But I guess the only good thing is, yeah, you can see clearance pretty good. The bolts are literally the lowest thing on there. So, yeah. Well, it's already starting to get dark. So, yeah. But I guess we'll call this part 1. A little more clearance underneath the truck. Ready to do probably front suspension next. So, front suspension, then rear. Notch the frame. Get these wheels and tires on here. And then, yeah. Oh, side note. Definitely saving this because just in case there's some rattles or shakes. I did get everything cleared. The catalytic converter clears by putting a notch in it over here. So it should be good, but if there's anything weird or funky, that may eventually go back on and modify as needed. But yeah, it's supposed to be the easy part. But anyway, that's part 1 for the install here. So part 2 will be very soon. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.